Good morning, Barry Bryson here, thanking you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I've taken a little time to get myself together from yesterday when we talked about the healing of the man who was mute and deaf. Now in chapter 8, we're going to read about the feeding of the 4,000, and that's in chapter 8, verses 1 through 10. And so let's read this text. In those days, when there was a great multitude and they had nothing to eat, he summoned his disciples and said to them, I feel sorry for the multitude, because they have remained with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away fasting to their home, they will faint on the way, because some of them have come from a great distance. And his disciples answered him, Where will anyone be able to find enough to satisfy these men with bread here in the wilderness? And he was asking them, How many loaves do you have? And they said, 7. And he directed the multitude to sit down on the ground, and taking the 7 loaves, he gave thanks and broke them and began giving them to his disciples to serve them, and they also served them to the multitude. And they also had a few small fish, and after he had blessed them, he ordered them to be served as well. And they ate and were satisfied, and they picked up the broken pieces, 7 full baskets that were left over of the broken pieces, and about 4,000 were there. And he sent them away, and immediately he entered the boat, he and his disciples, and came to the district of Dalmanutha. Okay, he seems to be still in Gentile country, because the opposite side of Dalmanutha on the Sea of Galilee would still be in that area around Decapolis. So the wilderness area, the desolate area where he ran into a legion. Dalmanutha, by the way, is in the area of Magdala. This is where Mary Magdalene's from. Just a bit of trivia there. Commentators, especially those who like to question the accuracy of Scripture, want to make a big deal out of this just being a retelling of the feeding of the 5,000. And we see so many similarities. And there are similarities. They're in the wilderness. People are hungry because they're away from home. They're in the wilderness. There are a lot of people there. They eat bread and fish. But of course, if this happened more than once, this is exactly how it would happen. If this happened in a town, it wouldn't be an issue. And of course, there are a lot of people there. There are always a lot of people there. And of course, they ate bread and fish because that's what they had. They had flat bread, like a Johnny cake, that they could make out of barley or wheat, but probably barley because they were all poor. And dried fish is what everybody ate. That's what you brought up out of the Sea of Galilee. You took those fish and you smoke and salt dried them, and then you had them to eat over a long period of time. They all had, that's what they had. And so, of course, that's going to be consistent if this miracle has happened more than once. But look at the differences. 7 baskets full, not 12. If he's making a theological point again, then there would be 12. The fact that he blesses the bread, passes it all out, and then blesses the fish all over again and passes it all out. There's Jesus asking the question, and just saying, "Hey, I'm worried about these folks. What do you think?" To the apostles, instead of the apostles saying, "You got to send these folks away," it's a completely different dynamic in the conversation. At this point, Jesus is expecting them to be more mature, and so he's asking them, "Okay, this is what I feel. Now, what do you think? I think we need to feed these people," and they still don't get it, even after the other miracle, which I think is one of the reasons why we have this story. I think we have this story to tell us, this happened more than once, and maybe fairly frequently. And the second thing is, no matter how many miracles the apostles saw him perform, and how many times he took them aside to explain what he was teaching, and how much time they had to themselves when they went to Gentile country, they still didn't get it. And I think that's one of the reasons we have this. We should not be surprised that we have patterns repeating themselves when Jesus would go to villages. And that's the way people are. That's the way the ministry is being conducted. Jesus is single-minded in the things that he's doing. And it shouldn't be a surprise to us that some of these events are going to be repeated They're going to be quite similar, over and over again. That would be true of every lecture tour. And this is, in a sense, a lecture tour around the various villages. And John himself tells us at the end of his gospel, listen, we've only scratched the surface of what happened those 3 years when we were with Jesus. If we told everything, the creation wouldn't be large enough to hold the books that would be necessary to tell everything that there is to tell. Okay. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes. I'm Barry Bryson, and we'll continue on in chapter 8 next time.